Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Tuesday edition of Today in Sports Betting. As always, I'm joined by my partner. He is the one, the only Scott Reichel. Scott, we're going to do a little NBA first here. How'd the association go for you yesterday?
It was okay. I know the totals in the Grizzlies game and the Sixers game helped me out. Team total for the 76ers didn't get there, but my play of the day was on the Sixers, minus the 8, ended up closing at 9. Game went the way I thought it would based on how the Wizards played. The only issue is that Embiid only played about a quarter, and that kind of really screwed me. You handicap a game, and then the best player on the team you back gets injured. There's really nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I had that as a premium play as well. Did not go well. Scott, let me ask you before we get rolling here. Are the players today, especially like in the NBA and the NFL, are they in too good a shape? Are they just putting too much torque, too much pressure? They're going too fast. They're jumping too high. They're doing things at playing weights that they wouldn't have been, you wouldn't have done, even 10, 15 years ago because they're in so much better shape. Are we seeing, first of all, are we seeing more injuries, or is that just anecdotal in my head, or is there no more injuries than there usually are?
You see, I think we're seeing more injuries, but I also think that there's been a different, I'd say, stigma when it comes to athletes admitting that they're injured. I feel like back in the day, you were supposed to be extremely tough.
Rub a little dirt on it.
Yeah, and if you ended up having an injury, it's the playoffs, too bad. Oh, your knee's in 3 separate places? Oh, that's a shame. We're going to need you to suit up and give me 30 minutes. But nowadays, with at least advancements in terms of health and technology, not really health, but you know what I mean, health awareness, technology, and even just medical practices and medical staffs being, I'd say, more knowledgeable than they were back in the day. I think you see a little bit more caution being exercised when it comes to some players, that they decide it's better to hold you out temporarily and worry about long-term effects as opposed to rubbing some dirt on it, which could cause a serious issue down the road. So I think that's more the main reason why. But then again, you also have a situation where you have an injury-prone player. And, if you decide we got to test out the knee, talking about Embiid, to see if A, it'll be a long-term thing, or B, we're up 3-0. So if we lose this game, who cares? As long as you're better for the upcoming series against either the Hawks or the Knicks, or even a long-term against the Bucks or the Nets, then you have to pick your spots, and the Sixers decided we're up 3-0. Why risk it?
Yeah, I hope that's the case. It really, you get guys that are just, especially big guys like that. Embiid, 7 foot.
Yeah, the magic number is 7 feet.
260, whatever he is. And
you go by the history of the NBA, most 7-footers tend to have serious leg issues, whether or not it involves actual ACL injuries or just constantly being on the shelf. But it's pretty rare.
It started with the back issue. He sat out his entire first year because he had back problems at KU.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just wonder if you're just putting.
Well, the back's how it started. I'm saying the last couple of years in the NBA was mostly the leg. I know he had a facial fracture a couple of years ago. When he came around a screen, he got absolutely clocked. But for the most part, I want to say it's been leg issues for Embiid lately, at least.
Well, and you also don't know if you're protecting one part of your body that hurts, you're putting weird pressure on other parts of your body that aren't designed to take it. So
the compensation is not going to be good long term.
That's what I'm saying. So anyway,
what do you feel? I feel it's mostly just a perception thing, where it's just athletes have to be athletes and man up and play. And nowadays they realize it's a pretty stupid philosophy. At least that's how I would initially.
I think there's a good part of that. I do believe in the physics of it, though, Scott. I think they got to be getting close to max as far as what the human body can do. I mean, I know they said that before. Nobody ever run a 4-minute mile, and whatever. I understand, but at some point you do reach terminal velocity or terminal jumping ability or whatever, and just the pressure you're putting on the joints. I don't know, just something to think about.
Well, that's something that happened with Bo Jackson, because he suffered the serious hip injury a while back, and it wasn't supposed to happen, but he was so athletically, I'd say, fit, or just such an athletic freak, that he caused an extremely fluky injury to happen because of just the sheer amount of torque and pressure he was able to actually exert. And
yeah, that was a weird. I don't know if you've probably seen replays of that. I was actually watching that game live, and just got pulled down from behind, and it just looked awkward when it happened.
I'm sure most people saw it on 30 for 30, but that's basically what they said, is that it's a normal tackle, and yet Bo brought it to such a tremendous amount of stress and pressure in that situation His
Right.
body couldn't handle it. And I guess that's the point you're trying to make.
Fair enough. All right. Let's enough philosophical ramblings for the evening. Let's take a look and see what we've got on tap because we do have 3 big games. So let's get to it, Scott. Starting off with the Celtics at the Brooklyn Nets. Nets, Scott, they have been pretty good in this series, is what I've heard, and the line certainly reflects that. As they opened as a 12-point favorite, and people said, no, that's not quite enough, as the number has now climbed to 12.5 or 13, depending on where you're looking. Total gone up a little bit, 231.5 to 232. Starting to see creep in, but it's been pretty static. You want to be part of the Nets minus 12.5, 13, Scott?
Not particularly, but I think if I was going to play it, I would take the Nets team total over.
Yeah,
it seems like a spot where if they're going to cover, they're probably going to score at least 130.
Yeah, I think that's solid.
I mean, I'm trying to think of Boston and what they can exactly do. I'm not exactly sure if Kemba Walker is going to play. He's been pretty terrible in the series anyway, but at this point, the Celtics just need bodies because they got torched in game 4, and it really wasn't even close. But you're looking at the Nets, and the issue I have with laying a 12-point spread there is that Tatum can go nuts at any moment. And we've seen the Nets really struggle when it comes to guarding Tatum. And even some of the other guys like Pritchard and even Fournier's had some moments here and there. Smart's had some moments as well. I don't think the Nets are good enough defensively to feel confidently about laying 12 points or so. I do feel better about the team total because you can just throw the actual defense out the window and just say, well, I know for a fact Boston can't stop these guys. So if the Nets actually just put their pedal to the metal and try to end the series, they should score at least 130. I'm assuming you agree with that, right?
I do think 130 is right about the number. That's what they've averaged over the last 3, by the way. And they haven't. The part that I like said they haven't had a half where they've scored less than 59 points since that first game, since they kind of all got their roles figured out and everything. So to me, I just worry at 12. I worry about, having that 16, 17 point lead with 5 minutes left, start to pull guys out of there, and you whittle it down to 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever by the time the game's over. And, you just get backdoored up the, backdoor, if you will.
Well, you know that the Nets team total in this game is around 122.5, which sounds like a lot. But you go through the last couple of games, they had 141 against Boston in the last game. They had 119 against Boston the game prior, but I think we'd agree the Nets didn't play well in that game at all. You had 130 against Boston in game 2, and then you had 104 in game 1 with the terrible first half. But you've seen the last 2 games, Durant is getting whatever he wants, and they can't do anything about it. Harden, I believe, had 39 or 40 2 games ago, and then last game he had like 23 and 18.
He had 41 2 games ago.
He had 41 2 games ago, and they had like 23 and 18 or something, so he's doing whatever he wants.
Low scorer in that trio, by the way.
Yeah, but he had 18 assists as well, which is like the second most in playoff franchise history for the Nets. And then you had Kyrie, who was awful in that one game. The Nets had 119, and then he went for 30. What do you have, like 37, 39 or something?
Well, however you add it up, it should add up to 104.
They had 104 between the 3 of them. And the question is, do I think Boston can guard any of them? And the answer is clearly no. And from what I've heard about Robert Williams, who's easily their best post defender, I heard he's going to be out for a while because he has the turf toe issue. And according to the medical staff for Boston, it'll take probably like 7 weeks to heal. So I highly doubt he's going to play in this game. Which means
he's doubtful. Walker's doubtful, Scott.
I'm assuming that they're both not going to play. But looking at Williams, talking about the team total, if Williams plays, then that's a huge factor on the team total. But with him out, you're going to give who? Jabari Parker 20 minutes, and we know Parker can't guard anybody.
Yeah,
I just don't see how the Celtics get enough stops.
Yeah, the big 3 have averaged 100 points the last 2 games.
It's disgusting.
That's absolutely ridiculous. How do you not take a team total over when 3 guys are putting up 100?
And at any moment, Joe Harris could have a big game as well. Sure. There's a couple other options of guys who could step up, but those big 3 are getting whatever they want. And
my God, Scott, even Blake Griffin had 10 one of the games.
Yeah, even Griffin, who looks completely washed. But still, I got to go with the team total over. If you want to take the spread, I can understand it. But with the lack of defense for the Nets, I got to look at something involving the over. The Celtics offense also stinks. So I'm kind of in the middle there, but I'll ignore it entirely. Give me the Nets team total over.
Yeah, I never saw a team where they're giving up 120 points a game. Everybody's like, yeah, I don't care.
They're giving up like 120, and you're like, this team might win the title. And it's like, well, why do you feel that way? Well, because they have 3 guys who can put up 100, like, to combine.
It was a lot like watching the Chiefs a couple of years ago. Now I know they pulled it together, the defense, for the playoffs and the Super Bowl, but for a lot of the season, it was a lot like watching that, where they were just going to be able to outscore them.
And you're only going to score 4 touchdowns against Mahomes?
Yeah. That's sadly sometimes that's absolutely true. So, all right, Skeeter. Moving on, and in the middle game here, the Portland Trail Blazers heading to the Mile High City to take on the Nuggies. Next game opened up a 1.5 as far as in favor of the Nuggets. That's where it stands right now. 226 is where it opened. 226 is where it stands. Got not a lot of movement here on this one. You know what? We talked about it before this series started. We talked about it was going to be a knife fight. It was going to be a close series. That's exactly what it's been so far. This Denver team was so cold in the last game, Scott.
They couldn't be any worse offensively. They shot about 34%.
Yeah, they were absolutely stone cold dreadful. They shot 34% from the field. They shot 29.5% from downtown. They got outscored by their bench, Scott.
I saw Michael Porter attempted 3 shots and had 3 points.
3 points. 3 points. They got outscored by the bench 50 to 45. And for the life of me, I would be hard pressed. I could probably think about it, but it'd be tough to name three guys on their bench.
Well, it's 2 ways to look at it, because you can talk about how Portland showcased that defensively they could clamp down. On the other hand, plus Lillard only had 10 points and he was 1 for 10, and yet they still won handily. But on the other hand, is Denver really going to shoot that badly again? Probably not.
They are not.
I hope for their sake they don't, because 34% is absolutely abysmal. But I think
I don't think there's any way this team doesn't shoot 44% from the field.
Yeah, when it actually comes down to it, though, looking at this game, I think the spread pretty much in every game is a complete coin toss.
Mm-hmm.
With these teams, it seems like they're pretty well matched. I did think Portland would win Game 4. That's mostly because I thought the series would probably go 7. So based on that, I just figured Portland would bounce back. But when it comes to this actual matchup here, I'm actually going to look at the under in this spot. I know that we ended up picking up a very, very nice sweat-free over victory there in Game 3. But if you looked at how that game worked out, you've seen a lot of low-scoring quarters. And it feels like these teams are starting to, I don't want to say figure each other out, but it seems like they're getting a little bit smarter with their defensive assignments. And I do think you have seen the pace, especially in the second half of some of these games, slow down dramatically. So I do think that the under money to start seems a bit right. It's pretty tricky because you remember the first couple games in the series, you were just going to slam the over. But I actually kind of like the trend that both defenses are heading in. I'm going to lean to the under. But this is a really, really tough game to find value on. You?
I'm going to fade you, buddy. I'm gonna go ahead and play the over. I just think this was a one-off for Denver last time out. I still think these teams can both score.
It was a one-off, but I'm also looking at the game prior where before you had the outburst of like 70-something fourth quarter points, you had about, 40 points flat in the third quarter?
I get that. If you look at the games, except for the last game, they've all had one monster quarter where they've scored at least 65 points or more.
Yeah.
You know, I watched this Portland team play all year, just like you did. They were 29th in the league in defensive efficiency, and that wasn't pretend. They really do suck.
They don't like to brag.
Give me the home team, and I think we may zigzag from here, Scott.
It's a spot where I just look at it and say I don't want to bet this game at all because I think that this is really a tough spot where if you actually watch the game, there'll do some retro capping and go, oh, it's obvious. Why didn't I take Denver at home? But before the game, you're going to look at it and go, I really don't know what separates these teams.
Yep. Yeah, I get that.
They'll probably be the home teams for the next 2 games if we think it's going 7. So I guess I'm leading Denver as well, but we'll see.
All right, very good. And finishing it up with the Lakers, Suns, AD, almost for sure. It's not official yet. He is doubtful, but it almost certainly will not play. Woj says he wasn't playing, Scott. That's good enough for me.
Woj said he wasn't playing, and then, it came out a couple hours ago from Lakers beat writers that, quote, there's not great optimism.
Yeah, I saw that.
It doesn't seem too good.
Very understated. There was not great optimism. That's fantastic quote.
Only good optimism.
Well, Suns are at home. They are favored by 4 here, Scott. It's now opened at 4 rather. It's now at 5. Open 209. Here comes the under. Pretty much 207 across the board, except for Billy Hill. William Hill does have it at 208. So,
Do you think they've ever been called Billy Hill before?
I wouldn't think so. No, I
We,
see.
we should we should we should patent that or copyright it. I like that.
Who's your book? I got Billy Hill.
I got Billy Hill. Oh, I heard he does great work.
Da, 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 da. Oh, no, that's Benny Hill. Sorry.
Close enough.
Oh, Scott.
You know where I stand. I said until they beat me, I have to take the under in every Knicks and Lakers playoff game. I've said it. I've been calling for it for weeks. They're still undefeated. I have to look at the under every time.
I get it, my friend. And we talked about it before the show, and there are some stats that, if anything, without AD, I ran that 2-month period where he was gone from February the 14th was his last game, and his first game back was April 22nd. For those 2 months, they basically gave up the same number of points and scored 2.5 less.
Well, there's also some overlap, though, because LeBron did get injured during that stretch as well.
I understand.
So the offense, of course, went absolutely just bottom. I mean, they cratered. There's no other way to put it. But defensively, the team's been great all season long.
Yep, they had one little minor stretch there, 4 games, where they couldn't play defense. But other than that, defense has been fantastic.
Now, Chris Paul appears to be fully healthy, or at least close to it. So
playing, he's going. Rub a little dirt on it, buddy.
He's going. He looked very good in Game 4. The issue that I have just with this game is the uncertainty involving Davis. I think for the sake of it, we'll both assume he's not going to play.
Out. He's out.
Okay, so we're both in agreement there, yes, which means either LeBron's going to go like 2018 Cavs mode, or this team's going to have some problems.
Yeah, I just don't think he has that gear, Scott. I don't think he has that. I think I don't know what's the song. I'm not as good as I was, but I'm as good once as I ever was, or whatever. I think he's got short little bursts. I don't think he has the ability to do that for 40 minutes.
That's fair, but my question for you is, I know that we're more interested in the total. Phoenix is now laying 5.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I don't want to lay 5 with Phoenix in this spot.
No.
I can't do it. If you're expecting a rock fight, I can't be getting a rock fight -5.
Yeah, I agree, and I also don't want to take the Lakers. I've got a premium on the total. So
I mean, I'm looking at the under. As you know, I've also been pretty big into the Phoenix team total unders in the series, and those are 4-0.
Yeah.
The issue I have with the Suns, especially late in games, is that even when it's close or when it's not close, this team will milk every last drop out of the shot clock and take some abysmal shots in the final 4 minutes of games. It is awful, some of the shots they get late. I know they held on because Crowder hit that 3 in the end. Paul hit that mid-range jumper. But those possessions, if you rewatch them back, they were hideous. They were doing nothing until like 5 seconds left in the shot clock.
Yeah, agreed.
So if I'm looking at it, I like Suns team total under. I like the full game under. As for the side,
105.5, I'm guessing, is your number there, by the way.
Hold my nose plus the points with the Lakers, but I don't really want to touch the side, to be honest with you. Oofta. I like the under more.
Gun to my head, I'll take the favorites.
Okay, I'm just gonna go with the under and call it a day.
Yeah, I don't. From a mathematical standpoint, it makes sense to play the Lakers because you get a low-scoring game. You know how it works.
That's how I'm looking at it. Truth is, I'm hoping there's something else on TV because I expect this game to be a hideous game of basketball.
Yeah, you want to get all fancy with your math and whatnot. Sure.
Well, I can tell you what the team total actually is for Phoenix, but I think
it's 105.5.
We probably agree that even when AD wasn't in the game in the second half, the Lakers' defense in the fourth quarter actually looked really good. Yeah. You had a couple of big shots late, but the Suns still only scored 19 points in that quarter, and that includes the Crowder three-pointer and everything like that. So if you go up to like the last 2 minutes, they had like 14 points in the first 10 minutes of the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
It was hideous. And we know Chris Paul playing more means probably less Cameron Payne, which means probably more half-court slow sets. So I'm going to stick with the under there, but I'm kind of just stalling, as you can tell, as I pull up the actual number for the Suns.
105.5.
106.5 at -118 on FanDuel.
Where'd you get that? 106.5?
Yeah, at -118 on FanDuel.
What are their other numbers?
What do you mean their other numbers?
They've got it at 2. They go to 207 -5.
I see 5.5 on FanDuel. but they have it at 207 flat. I mean, I gotta like the 106.5 on the under. And then if you look at all the games in this series, Suns have scored 99, 102, 95, 100. Sure, I'll take the under 106.5.
That's solid. That's solid. All right, guys, if you're looking for a second opinion on these games, what's the matter with you? We just went through every one of them. I don't know what you want.
We have two opinions. There's two of us.
If you're looking for a third opinion, make sure you stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com. Unless it's one of the articles that Scott has written, then you've already heard that opinion. So
I actually didn't write an article tonight, so you're off.
Okay, very good. Deep dives into every game every single day. You know how it works, man. Always there, always free. Great resource. Use it. Everybody else does. All right. And of course, hey, let's go make some money today. Wish you guys nothing but the best. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money when you head back to the window. Guys, stay tuned. We're going to do the baseball right around the corner on Today in Sports Betting. We'll see you there.